Vanakkam and welcome to ART, அதாவது Avinash Ramachandran Talkies. Imagine you're seated for a nice haircut and halfway through the process, you strongly believe that your style quotient is on point. But a few minutes later, you look at what is in the mirror and you reach for the nearest cap to ensure your head is not shown in public for the next few weeks. In this episode of ART, let's talk about RJ Balaji's latest film, Singapore Saloon, which in some ways is the movie version of a promising haircut that ends up as a disappointing endeavor. First, let me be honest here. I like the humor in director Gokul's films. The way he plays with not just the dialogues, but the delivery of the same is a comedy goldmine, and I love how he finds it in the most unlikely of places. I enjoyed it in Idarku Daan Aasapatta Balakumara, Kashmora, and even Junga. I think the same thing happens in Singapore Saloon also. Let's take the scene where, let's say there is a bar, there are a few drunkards, and of course there is space for some solid humor, and that is taken care of by Gokul. But how do you extract humor centered around a circumcision ceremony? Most of the humor in Singapore Saloon is over the top. It almost feels caricaturish. But Gokul manages to hit the target at every possible attempt. He is supported by the ever-consistent Satyaraj and a resurgent Robo Shankar who seems to reserve his best for Gokul. Their conversations, while sometimes overstaying their welcome, manages to elicit a laugh or at least half a smile almost every single time. In fact, it is their presence that livens up the film after a rather sobering start involving RJ Balaji delivering a final message to the world before deciding to kick the bucket due to certain issues in his life. In fact, it is impressive that Gokul forgets the issues for a while and decides to regale us with his well-documented penchant for humor. He uses flashbacks not just to establish the central conflict, but give us a sense of who Kadir, RJ Balaji, and Bashir, a decent Kishan Das who definitely deserves more. They are best friends from different faiths, but this difference is never milked for sentiment. Instead, it is used for organic comedy, and this nature of comedy works in favor of the film when Satyaraj and Robo Shankar are brought into the mix, and it wonderfully culminates into a midpoint that manages to not just pique our interest, but sets the stage for a rip-roaring, hilarious second half. Now if you ask me, I may not be able to recollect many one-liners or funny sequences from the film with verbatim, but I have no shame in admitting that I laughed my guts out in most of these scenes. I think this is one of those films where you might forget a lot of things soon after, but you would love to watch it again and again and again and again. But I don't know whose idea it was. Let's assume it was Gokul's because, well, he's the director. Why did Singapore Saloon completely forego its strength, that is comedy, to adopt an overdose of melodrama? There are random characters, there are random intervention of God, there is a random reality show, there is a random environmental issue, a random social message, a random political, I don't know what you want to call it in the first place, appeasement, I don't know, a random change of heart, a random upliftment saga, not one, not two, but three random cameos. Even if Gokul did decide to fill the film with such random things, why did he let go of the comedy that worked so well? I don't know. Whoever was in the think tank that decided this was the way to go, why? Of course, we can't always question the creator's decision to choose a particular path, but yeah, why? Also, the film takes such flimsy turns that it just cannot be written off as whimsical ideas. Why is the film drilling in the idea that looks matter more than the talent? Of course, that might be how the world judges people, but in a film that talks about not judging profession, not judging where you come from, it's odd that it reinforces that style takes precedence over substance. That entire reality show portion in the second half is a half-baked idea that starts suddenly and somehow becomes the central conflict. It's a very confusing idea that, yeah, does have a lot of promise, but it is shoehorned into this film. The final few minutes, the final couple of acts of the film feels like looking at the final sheet of an exam paper where ideas are crammed into in the last minute. Why is it so overwritten? Why is it so all over the place? Why? Honestly, points to RJ Balaji for actually trying to step out of his comfort zone and take up these challenges. If Run Baby Run, his last year's film, saw him completely move away from comedy to give us a fairly serious whodunit, his Veetla Visesham was a family dramedy that saw him move away from the spotlight and allow other actors like Urvashi or a KPS Lalita or a Satyaraj to take the center stage. In fact, here too, for the most part, Balaji plays from the sidelines and lets go of his natural flair for comedy to probably establish himself as a hero and not just a comedian. I understand his idea, but it is not holding him in good stead over the past couple of films. Comedy is his forte, and in Singapore Saloon, whenever he is not surrounded by, let's say, Robo Shankar or Satyaraj, the film takes a nosedive into a point of no return. In fact, with every passing minute devoid of comedy, Singapore Saloon becomes an agonizing watch because the comedy is replaced by a never-ending assembly line of randomness, which is unfortunately chaotic but never funny. Even in the serious portions, he tells a lot of powerful dialogues like success isn't an option, it is a must, but it comes at such a random instance, and he too never displays such leadership qualities beforehand. Everything seems so sudden, everything seems so out of place, everything seems, actually it gives us more questions about his arc, his actions and the reactions. The saddest part is certain writing choices makes us forget that Singapore Saloon is the same film that we laughed with minutes ago, and now we are actually laughing at the film. But not all is lost with Singapore Saloon. While the first half absurdity does work for the film, the second half, which is not clearly my favorite, does have some random moments of ingenuity. While some are intentionally funny, some are just unintentionally hilarious. As the credits rolled and I walked out of the theatre, I felt disappointed, rather cheated. Why prime me for a comedic showdown only to make the film into just another star vehicle that has mass masala moments, preachiness, poorly written women characters, and the star vehicle just breaks down halfway. Thank you for joining me in this episode of ART, Adavadu Avinash Ramachandran Talkies. Do let me know what you thought of Singapore Saloon and yours truly's review of the same. Well, see you when I see you, and always remember, life is a revolution.